the penultimate episode of the Spook
When
parentheses
when
of
did
the.
when did you lose this episode, Justin? When did we go off the rails?
Oh no, there
Where
are no
where
rails. There are no rails. There are no rails this week. There are no rails. It's okay. It's okay. We needed this, Jordan. We needed this after. We needed this to be a
Oh,
silly,
we
goofy
needed
episode.
fun.
We
We
needed some
needed some
levity.
fun.
And with that, today this week's topic is of in the penultimate episode of the Spook parentheses of the Moment podcast. It is a big, deep, long retrospective of iconic slasher villains. Once again, remind the audience at home which iconic slasher villain you selected.
I chose Jason Voorhees.
And I selected Halloween. Now, we're gonna wind up doing jumping around here. There's no way about it. But we're gonna do what we normally do in one sense. Like, we're not gonna do have scenes, have not scenes. It's just gonna be kind of a retrospective. We're gonna do these a movie at a time. We managed to watch all of them. Like, just up top.
Yeah,
I'm impressed with us.
I do want to say,
Considering I have no time ever.
I watched the Friday the 13th movie, and so it's a little upsetting that there's only 12 of them.
I mean,
How synergistically awesome would it have been if I could have said, I watched the Friday the 13 movies.
I watched 13 Halloween movies, so
yeah, it's not the same.
Yeah, it's close.
You should have had 12 and I should have had 13. It's bullshit is what I'm saying.
I mean, that's pretty bullshitty. So we'll just go through these a movie at a time. If you want to focus on one in particular, we can go on longer, we can go shorter. It'll sort of loosely follow the regular format of the show. But let's just talk about these guys. Let's start at the beginning. Let's start I think I'm in the 70s. I'm 78, I think. You're 1980, 81.
I'm 1980.
Let's do you first. We'll let you go first. The first Friday the 13th movie, in my opinion, the best Friday the 13th movie.
Hello? Who's that? Oh, hi. What are you doing out in this mess?
One.
Like, in terms of being an actual, like, good movie and not just being stupid and silly. If you remove the silliness from the rest of them, and, like, in terms of actual movie making ability, I think it's the best one.
So, okay, here's what I'm gonna say. It depends on what you're quantifying it by. If you're quantifying these movies, like the Friday the 13th movies, they can only be good if they have Jason Voorhees. This instantly has to be the worst because it doesn't have Jason.
Well, that's why I separated it into...
If you're going purely by, like, film quality, I would probably say this one is the best, because in terms of, like, what actually happens in the movie, I mean, I have future knowledge, so ignore me. But, like, if you're watching this the first time,
it's a legitimately good twist.
It's a good twist.
You're not expecting the old camp late lunch lady to be the killer. You're not expecting that.
No.
Like, it's legit a good. We're gonna be spoiling the shit out of these movies, by the way. They're ancient. Get over yourself. Wow, I'm so antagonistic this week. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you need to just calm the fuck down, man.
No, but that's why I separate them into two categories. See, mine, Halloween, I don't have to do that. But with yours, I would separate them into the best Friday the 13th movie and the best Jason movie. Because the Friday the 13th, the first one is, in my opinion, it's the best movie, because you don't know who's going to die, and you don't know in which order. You don't know who's going to survive. Like, you don't know if you don't know the twist, it does not telegraph it, like, at all.
I will say, I do think that the 2009 remake gives it a run for its money, only because it merges together the first three movies really satisfactorily for me.
For me, it loses. That's why I'm like, when I'm like, I watch a show about, I want to learn more about Pamela Voorhees. To me, she's an underserved character in this franchise, because obviously the second one went like, oh yeah, we're gonna bring back Jason, and then everyone fucking loved Jason. So we'll get there. But no, I genuinely really, that it's my favorite Friday the 13th movie, because it's the one that made me go like, I get it. I get why this became a thing.
I just, you're right. It almost has to be like it's right here.
Yeah.
And it's in its own bubble.
It's on its own little category.
In its own multiverse, if you will. And then the rest of the movies are over here, and they are. It's like I have to compare them against each other.
Like, while I think it's fair to compare Friday the 13th Part 2 to Friday the 13th Part 7, I don't think it's fair to compare Friday or Jason in Space to Friday the 13th Part 1. They're just not the same movie. They're just not.
No.
And it's like, it's also just,
No.
it's a movie that for the 1980s, it's really tense. Like, it's not silly. And it's just, again, it's genuinely a good movie. Like a genuinely well-constructed horror movie.
There's also just the fact that if we're being technical, I picked Jason Voorhees. I didn't pick Friday the 13th.
You didn't pick Pamela Voorhees.
I didn't pick no, and so while I did enjoy this movie, I have to, technically for our competition's point of view, it's not in the running.
No, I don't think so. I don't think it is.
Like it can't be.
But to be fair, I have my own not in the running coming up. It's just later on.
Yeah.
So
but
I want to talk about it nonetheless. Speaking of which, I want to
there's actually technically for me there's two which I argue are in this in the category of they can't be in the running.
I know which one you're talking about. But it's got the hockey mask. So
actually, I would almost argue there's three, but we'll talk about them as we go through them.
I don't know what. Yeah, you're right. So anyway, do you have any more thoughts on the first Friday? It's a solid start to a franchise. It's not a solid start to a franchise, but it's a good. The second one's a solid start to a franchise.
Much in the same way that I say that. With bringing it back to Art the Clown, where like you watch the second one and then retroactively go back to the first one.
Yeah,
I kind of feel. I'll read that in a second. I kind of feel like you could skip this one and just go directly to the second one.
But I mean, this one's so good though.
It is,
it's
but
not that in that regard, I wouldn't. With Terrifier movies, I'm like, if you want to reduce your unpleasantness, but for this one, I'm like, no, if you want to watch a legit good horror movie, good thriller.
I just more mean in terms of the fact that it's so different from even the second one.
Yeah, not
like
wrong.
It's so different. Like it's almost not even. It's almost
fair?
Like the second
not
one.
Fair.
Well, I was gonna say it's almost like the second one's a spin-off.
Yeah.
Like it's not a sequel, really. It is, but it's not. Like that's where I'm like, it's weird.
Friday, the 13th. You may only see it once, but that will be enough. Friday, the 13th.
Okay, so with that, move on
that's
to.
That's really all I have to say about the first one.
Move on to, I guess, Halloween Part 1.
The classic Halloween. Halloween night. A small American town. 15 years ago.
So Halloween Part 1. Here's my thing with. Okay, here's my. This is going to be my thesis for Michael Myers going forward. You're going to hear me say it a lot, so I'm going to ask the question up top, and I'm going to keep going back to it. Oh yeah, number one. We're going to play a game with the Halloween movies that I call Spot the Retcon. So when I say something that sounds like a retcon to you, just shout it out. Cool?
Sure. Also, Pantheon Podcast says, I just got here. You guys talked about Smile too.
Smile. No, first Friday the 13th. Now first Halloween. Michael Myers. Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees.
We're making our way through all of them.
Yeah, all of them, every single one. We're on Halloween 1, which, my question about Michael Myers up top from the beginning is, and it's going to be a question I come back to a lot, is Michael Myers human? Or is he spooky? Or does he have superpowers? Or is he just a guy?
I don't know much about Michael Myers. I'm going to be fair. I just know that I think he wears the mask.
Yeah, he wears the mask, yeah.
As I understand him, he's just a guy, right?
Well, we're going to get into it because these movies make attempts to explain what he is. But so far as this movie, and the thing about this movie is, and we're going to talk about the Rob Zombie movie later, but this one doesn't really like. It opens with Michael stabbing you seeing from Michael's perspective him stabbing his sister to death, which then prompts him to be sent to an insane asylum. And he breaks out on Halloween night, and he goes and he basically attacks,
kills people.
Yeah, he kills people and he stalks Jamie Lee Curtis's character Laurie Strode. And the whole movie, there's a character called Dr. Loomis who keeps going around being like, he's evil, he's evil, he's evil. But it's not clear as to if he means that literally or not. Like do you mean like literally, because this is a movie, do you mean like literally like in the magic he's a demon way, or do you mean like metaphorically? Like he's like for example, I would characterize Hitler as evil, but he still died by shot to the head. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like,
there's a difference between spiritually evil and just humanly evil. Terrestrially,
if you will, right? And so he keeps going around the whole movie being like, you have to get Michael Myers. You have to get Michael. That's like a pretty impression of Michael McDowell. We have to get Michael Myers.
Pantheon Podcast says, it doesn't explain, but I believe he is a big, strong human.
Right, but like, okay, to jump ahead, the end of this movie, he gets shot 6 times, point blank, in the chest. And then he just gets, like, the movie shows him there on the ground, and then it goes back, and he's gone. And you're like, okay, well, you don't make another one. He just kind of wandered off and then bled to death, right? But yeah, he just takes weird amounts of punishment. You're like, well, he's just a guy. Just shoot him in the head.
This is where I'm gonna jump in here. In the first 3 Friday the 13th movies, I believe it's the 4th one where we go supernatural. Freddy is also just a guy, and I also think that he's capable of taking just way too much punishment.
I mean,
but you then said to me, and I'm gonna now throw this in your face. Adrenaline can get you through a lot, especially if you're a big guy.
Well, sure, right, but I mean, not to the degree of damage to which he takes in these movies. But yes, there are certain moments where you're like,
I would make that same argument in my movie.
There's certain moments where it's just like, and I think the difference is in the Friday the 13th movies, they don't go out of their way to be like he's just a guy. Like these movies go out of their way.
The first ones they do. They're very much like, he's human.
Not quite in the same way. Not quite in the like that one. That one they implied that he's supernaturally evil.
Pantheon Podcast says, I heard a theory that he dies with those 6 shots, but he made a deal with the devil to keep coming back as a force of evil. But totally urban legend.
Well, and then we're gonna that's something. Yes, there's different ideas like in the movie he's not, when he's wearing the mask, he's not called Michael Myers, he's called The Shape. That's what his technical evil name is. Like that's what he's called in the script, but they never call him that in the actual movie. They only ever call him Michael Myers. And yeah, it just sort of seems like there's no rhyme or reason for why he goes for Laurie. There's like with Jason, you thoroughly understand why he's killing the people he does. Like he doesn't have a motivation. He has a motivation in the individual killings of the people, but like you understand why he kills. Whereas with Michael Myers, especially in this first one, he just kind of goes after her for no reason. Which is fine. That's what makes him theoretically scary. And then that's the thing I appreciated about this first one. When I was like, just shoot him. He does at the end. He shoots him point blank. He flies out the window. That's it. Like Loomis just shows up at the end and saves the day. And that's the first one.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's surprisingly brutal. And they are surprisingly brutal movies. There's a kill in the next one, which I was like genuinely surprised by. But anyway, we'll get there.
Halloween, the night he came home.
Second, so Friday the 13th.
I guess we'll move on to the first Freddy Vorhees movie.
On a June night in 1980, Friday the 13th, 12 of her friends were murdered. Why should Friday the 13th, 1981 be any different?
Jason Voorhees. Freddy Krueger,
yeah.
Jason Voorhees.
Sorry, I always mix up their names. And so one thing that I kind of discovered as I was watching these movies is it's really interesting to watch the progression of like from he's just essentially a big hillbilly who lives in the woods.
Yeah, I know.
To
What he becomes?
unstoppable zombie force that can't be killed.
Well, that's the thing I appreciate about the Friday the 13th movies. When they hit that point where they're like, we can't explain how he keeps survive getting shot. We need a reason. They came up with one, and they made it work within the confines. My guy didn't so much. Yeah, my guy didn't so much. But
sorry. Pantheon podcast. In Jason case, he kills because everyone is having sex in the cabin but him.
Yeah, that's you joke, but that technically, yeah, the thing about Jason,
technically in the world of him, he drowned because the teenagers were having sex and he's pissed.
Yeah,
that's essentially it.
He's an angel of punishment. So he punishes his victims, and he doesn't punish the. That's why I think. Yeah, I'll save it. But he doesn't kill children. He doesn't kill animals. Like that's the thing. He does not he does not harm the innocent. He only harms the people he feels deserves it. That's the difference between him and Michael Myers.
The people that he feels are morally corrupt. Michael Myers, how I would describe it.
Yeah, exactly. Michael Myers will absolutely kill a kid.
So the second one of this journey that we're on, if you will.
Yeah, we have yet to see the hockey mask.
No, we're still wearing the pillowcase.
Yeah, we're still wearing the pillowcase.
Which so here's what I'll say. Jason is a character where it's like I've seen a few of these, but they're either not memorable enough for me to remember exactly which ones I had watched before, which yes, I could see that argument, or it's the fact that he's such an icon that it's like you don't really need to have seen his movies to know.
But it's fun to see where he begins. Is that fun to see his origins?
And so that's kind of my thing. Is it's fun to see his slow descent into what he becomes.
My one thing with this one that I found confusing, and maybe you picked up on it more than I did. This is supposed to take place immediately after the first one, right?
Pretty fast after, I believe. Yeah.
Right, because it opens with the girl from the first one, right?
It opens with the girl, and then the rest of the movie is 5 years later.
Okay, because doesn't the Jason show up and kill her in the beginning?
Yeah, he does.
And he's an adult at that point, right?
Which was a weird choice.
I
believe not the kid.
Adult
the girl.
Jason.
He shows. Yeah.
Because it's implied that the thing the thing that happens at the end where he like leaps up out of the water and grabs her, that's like that's not real.
Oh, that's not part 2.
No, I'm saying at the end of part 1, because my question, my confusion is, at the end of part 1, you see Jason.
Part 1, it's supposed to be implied that Jason. Oreche says so. Jason is the Punisher. Yeah, kind of.
Kind of, yeah.
More like the Ghost Rider.
Yeah, a little bit. But no, yeah, the first one ends with him like leaping up out of the water and
jumping out of the water. And grabbing her.
And then the second one retcons that into
the second one retcons it and it basically implies that he was real. Because the first one kind of you're supposed to think that it was all in her head and it was a dream.
I thought that was the other way. That the first one was like it was real. The second one was like the him being all deformed and shit. That because when she grabs him or when he grabs her, he's a kid, so he's not an adult. That's why I get confused.
Yeah, well, that's where I say, as I understand it, the first one it's supposed to because she wakes up. The first one it was supposed to be a dream, but then they retconned that in the second one, and then it wasn't.
That's what I'm saying. I'm pretty sure it's the other way around. I think in the first one.
I just watched it. We're gonna go with my knowledge on this.
I'm pretty sure
you're wrong.
Doesn't it just cut the credits when he grabs her? Because she goes and then it cuts the credits.
I mean, I have the Wikipedia open. I can read you what happens.
Yeah, that's where my confusion went. I was like, well, when she grabbed her, he was a kid. How is he all of a sudden an adult?
I'll have to open the actual Friday the 13th one.
But then, okay, even if it did happen, he's a kid in that sequence, and he's an adult in that movie. So how did he go from being a kid to an adult rapidly?
I mean, the answer, it retcons the second one retcons the first one. We've already said that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The second one retcons it that sequence into being a dream sequence. That's what I'm saying.
No, it retcons it into being real.
But then how? Yeah, but then that doesn't make any sense. Then how did he grab her?
When she awakes, Jason's decomposing corpse emerges from the lake and drags her underwater, at which point she awakens in a hospital surrounded by a police sergeant and medical staff. The sergeant says there was no sign of a boy at the lake, to which Alice says that he's still there.
Interesting.
That's how the first one ends.
Okay. So the first one implies that that was a dream.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
the second one opens. Gotta get to the summary.
I remember the
plot.
second one saying that it was a dream. That didn't actually happen because it wouldn't make any sense for it to happen.
Plot: 2 months after the murders at Camp Crystal Lake, sole survivor Alice Hardy is recovering from her trauma. Yada 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 yada. Yeah, it doesn't really say. It just says that she's murdered.
Yeah, so I'm guessing the implication is that the kid thing is a dream.
Yeah, probably.
But anyway, you have anything major you want to say about the second one? Beyond the fact that no hockey mask yet.
Yeah, no, we're pre-hockey mask. It's, I mean, most of what I'm gonna say about these movies, kind of comes down to, you see a lot of sex and you see a lot of murder, and you really don't want to see Jason Voorhees without his mask because that son of a bitch is ugly.
He's an
The day you count on for terror is not over. Friday the 13th, Part 2.
ugly dude. So I guess we'll move on to Halloween Part 2. So Halloween Part 2 picks up
Pantheon podcast says, in this era, he is a misogynist, asexual that recognizes himself as a jury and executioner. Ha ha. Jason, #Jason 2024.
probably not inaccurate. Second Halloween.
I shot him 6 times. I shot him in the heart. This man, he's not human.
Universal Pictures presents Halloween 2. More of the night he came home.
Who is it?
So the second Halloween movie picks up immediately after the first one. And it's basically the entire movie is Laurie is in a hospital and Michael Myers just kind of having survived being shot 6 times somehow, basically terrorizes her at this hospital. And there are some surprisingly gnarly deaths. There's one where Michael Myers like takes this nurse and like shoves her face in boiling water and then like pulls it back out and her face is like peeling off. And you're like, ooh, that's kind of gruesome. Like the first one, the kills were quaint. For me, they were like, oh, this is cute. This is soft. That one I went, oh, ooh, that one's kind of brutal. And this is the one where the big twist is that Laurie Strode was actually adopted, a thing that was not hinted at or set up at all in the previous movie. The previous movie was he just kind of picked her because he saw her. That's why he went after her. That's it. And the first movie basically implies that half the fun for him is like there's moments where it just cuts and he's just standing there creepily.
He's just standing there, menacingly.
Like the first movie implies that like he enjoys that stuff. The second one is like, okay, no, we need a reason for why he does the stuff he does. So now, big twist, Laurie Strode is actually his sister. And his whole thing is Laurie is he wants to recreate the death of his original big sister by murdering her. And that's why he wants to murder her. And the whole movie is basically just, him terrorizing this hospital. And I'm just trying to remember if there's anything else notable about the second one. The second one was supposed to be the last one. That's the important part. So eventually they got the idea, and this is going to be important for the next one, that these would become an anthology. So every one of Halloween movies would be a different movie, different story, different characters. And they'd all be like R-rated stories about Halloween. And so Michael Myers dies at the end of this movie. he gets killed. Every 2 or 3 movies, he gets killed permanently. So this movie ends with him getting shot again and blown up.
It's time, Michael.
He gets blown up. Like they fire, blown up. And Loomis is still there, and he spends the entire movie, and this is where they keep spending the entire movie like, he's evil, he's pure evil, or the times like, he'll never die. Again, do you mean like in a metaphorical sense, or do you mean like that literally? Like if you were to stab him in the throat, he wouldn't bleed to death. Like, is that what you mean? Is that what you mean? Yeah, that's the second one. So,
I mean, that might in fact be what they mean.
okay, that's the second one.
Halloween 2. More of the night he came home.
He's dead now. That's the second.
He can't hurt you anymore, Justin.
That's the second Halloween movie. Third Friday the 13th movie.
Yeah, so it's I'm gonna be honest. A lot of these movies blend together at a certain point.
I don't remember this one. I just know that it's the 3D one.
Which is why, yeah, I didn't watch it in 3D, but and I didn't even.
Weekends are a good time to escape to the woods. Unless the weekend begins with Friday the 13th. Because 13 is an unlucky number. But out here, so are 1 through 12. Because these are Jason's woods. And nobody leaves them alive.
Didn't even know that it was in 3D until I was just reading that, so that was interesting.
You can tell. You can tell when you watch it. When you know that, you can immediately tell. There's a lot of like,
I have no idea.
Jason like put stuff towards the camera.
So yeah, in this one is I believe the first one where he gets the mask.
Yeah, and you're expecting it to be kind of like a ceremonious thing, because you're like, oh, it's this like icon. And you could tell that. Like, I don't know that they knew that they were going to stick with the hockey mask, because there's no circumstance put to it. He gets it off screen. Like in the remake. I mean in the remake, there's the moment of he sees it and he like goes to put it on. That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
He just kind of reappears with it on.
No.
Hey, I dropped your wallet. I'm sorry.
No, this was definitely before, like in any movie franchise, they had no idea that was going to be as infamous as it became.
Right. That seems really good though, where he disappears and he comes back. I had to rewind it because like, wait a minute, when did we lose the fact that when I was rooting for the funny frat friend the whole time.
A Pantheon podcast says, but in that one he already got back from dead, so he is a zombie, I guess. I'm not sure if he's talking about yours.
Michael Myers. Yeah, Mike. If you're talking about Halloween Part 2, yeah, that movie just kind of implies he could just take being shot. There's no real explanation given to how he managed to survive being shot 6 times.
In terms of Friday the 13th,
sorry.
In
I remember the other point. At the end of Halloween Part 2, he gets shot in the face. Like, she shoots him in the face, and there's a point where his like eyes are closed, and he's like doing this, like feebly attempting to stab, and they're just like easily dodging him as he's completely blind, and then he gets blown up. So he's going into his next appearance supposed to be blind. I think he's supposed to be dead, but yeah, it's really
Pantheon podcast says in this 3D one, he might be the first serial killer that breaks the fourth wall on camera or on cinema.
Honestly, don't know. Yes, that one was supposed to be in 3D.
But no, technically, in the third one, he is still human.
Yeah, he is. He is
not. He's not yet been turned into a zombie.
But they all have an inherent level of their slasher villains. They have an inherent level of slasher villain superpowers. There's a difference between that and like
No, but I mean in terms of the story, he's
Yeah.
not the immortal,
Not yet, no.
unstoppable god yet.
Not yet.
In this one, it does start with him like badly injured and unmasked, and yeah, that's why he ends up getting the hockey mask. But
Yeah.
this one otherwise doesn't really stand out very much for me. I just know that he kills more people.
Yeah. This is the one.
It
No,
introduces
I don't
the
remember
kid,
sticking
I
out to me.
think.
Oh yeah, I think this is the one that no, that's the next one. Tommy Doyle. There's one that eventually introduces not Tommy Doyle. Tommy though his name is, I think. Something
Yeah,
Tommy.
this one is he just ends up at a house and he's killing all the people in the house.
Yeah, this
That's
is
really all this one is.
the only thing that's really notable about this one is this is where he gets the hockey mask.
Yeah,
I don't remember. I only really remember the really silly ones and the one I hate.
that's fair. So yeah, that's really all I have to say about the
So,
3D one. The most interesting thing to me about it, I was just reading on the Wikipedia, was that originally they had planned for the plot to be almost completely different, but they wanted to essentially Cold Notes version. They wanted what I believe is the main girl from the second one to come back and basically be training and like planning on going and stopping Jason and getting revenge and stuff.
I
But
think I
then
knew
she
this.
didn't want.
She didn't
Then
want to
she
come
didn't
back.
want to come. You didn't want to come back, so they basically had to. Um. Sorry, they basically had to completely rewrite it. Sorry, Arete Media says Tommy is in the first one and appears again in Halloween 6.
Oh, that's for Halloween. Tommy for so this is what
We're
happened
talking
when
for Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th. Yeah, eventually they give him a nemesis in the form of I'm pretty sure his name is Tommy. His first name is Tommy. But yeah, he's the one who you think he's going to turn into Jason at the end of part 6, I think. But then we'll get there.
Find out. While you talk about. About your next one, I will
yes.
find it. Yeah, no, it is Tommy Jarvis.
Tommy Jarvis. Tommy Doyle is from Halloween. Yeah, that's Halloween. We're gonna talk about part 6. No, don't even worry. We're gonna talk about Paul Rudd. But first we're gonna talk about Halloween part 3. So yeah, I've got my own. It doesn't have the main guy in it movie, and that is Halloween part 3. Which I quite liked. I think people think it's like notoriously bad. I like it. I understand why people don't, because it's not Halloween. It's not a Halloween movie. If as you put it with Friday the 13th, if you consider a Halloween movie as having Michael Myers in it, it's not a Halloween movie. But very basically, I'm gonna try to do this really fast. It takes place in the 1980s during Halloween. There is a sort of a conspiracy about these mysterious men are appearing around town, and they are murdering people, and like this had a truly like upsetting, as you put it, it's always the eye stuff. Like this franchise loves this. Like doing that to people. So there's a really long scene of like a robot person just like doing that to somebody's face and squishing in their eyeballs, and I was like, stop it, please. And so all of these people who are mysteriously dying all work for this one guy, Silver Shamrock. And the entire movie you keep seeing these commercials for these like weird Halloween masks.
Only 2 more days, kids, but that's plenty of time to choose one of the big Halloween 3. They're fun, they're frightening, and they glow in the dark. 2 more days, 48 hours, and remember to watch the Horror-thon, 9 o'clock, Halloween night.
2 more days to Halloween.
That are going out to kids, and they have this really fun jingle, and all the kids want one. And it turns out that the guy who owns the company that's selling these toys wants to resurrect ancient Celtic rituals from his land, in which involves fascinating sacrificing children at Samhain. the pagan celebration of the celebration of winter. So he plans to use all of these Halloween masks to hypnotize and brainwash a bunch of kids all at the same time to kill them so he can get power and bring back these ancient Celtic rites. And it is a surprisingly creepy movie, and I quite liked it. Maybe because I've watched two Michael Myers movies and it was something different, but the introduction of the Celtic rites or whatever is interesting. But yeah, the idea behind this one was that they wanted to do something. They wanted to step away from Michael Myers, which is why he gets killed off at the end of the last one. And people, like I say, notoriously hate this one because it does not include Michael Myers. It really reminds me of like an episode of the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, I could see why not having Michael Myers in a Michael Myers movie would be a tad bit frustrating.
Well, yeah, the idea though that they wanted to generate with this was that the Halloween franchise would be a franchise that could be anything. It wouldn't just be Michael Myers. It became associated with that, but at this point, you got to remember there are only 3 movies in.
That's fair.
That's
fair.
it. That's it for part 3. That's it for part 3.
Stop it!
Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, the night no one comes home.
Moving trucking right along to Friday the 13th part 4. We got to do this fast, people. We got 13 and 10 movies to get through.
Friday the 13th, the final chapter.
3 times before, you have felt the terror, known the madness, lived the horror. But this is the one you've been screaming for.
Which, spoiler alert, was not in fact the final chapter.
Because it's funny.
Basically,
I remember I was reading about the next one, and then I was like, "Why was that?" Oh, right, because they thought that Jason would die at the end of this one permanently.
Well, so see, what's funny is when you talk about in the annals of history of where Jason becomes immortal, I can see the argument for I believe it's the next one, him becoming immortal. I would argue it starts here because he is presumed dead, taken to the morgue, and then just resuscitates himself on the morgue, like on the slab, like just comes back to life.
Yeah, this is the point where they were like, we need to explain how he's surviving this. And yeah, I think they made the right choice by maybe, I don't know. But to be fair, you kind of got to remember, we're in the point of the franchise where it gets silly. But we're watching them in the span of a week. These movies are coming out years apart, and they're desperately trying to figure out how to keep these characters like relevant. I would argue that this is Marvel of the 1980s.
I mean, but they don't really
These are
explain
a staple franchise.
They don't really explain it in this one. It's in the one where he gets electrocuted. And
even then, they never really explain where it comes from.
It kind of just he gets Frankenstein.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I think is this the one though where they stop being scared of hiding him? There's one where they just stop hiding him. Like there's just scenes of him doing mundane shit of opening and closing doors, and it's so fucking funny.
I just know that this is the one where he fights the psychic girl.
Oh, is this the one where he fights the psychic girl?
I believe so.
No, I think that's part 7. Part 7. This is
because this is where Tommy comes in, and it's that the psychic girl is his sister.
No, I'm pretty sure that the psychic girl is the one where it's Jason versus Carrie. That's part 7. I'm almost entirely positive that's part 7. But you've got the wiki open.
Well, I mean, I can read you this entire thing, but
yeah, I know the psychic girl where Jason kills someone with the weed whacker. I'm pretty sure that's part 7, or no, maybe it's part 6, not part 4. That I know. Wait, we're on part 4, right? Yeah, we're on part 4. No, you're on part 4. Yeah.
Yeah, this one introduces Tommy.
No, I know that, but I don't think not the psychic girl you're thinking of, the one where she's got the evil psychiatrist. Or are we thinking of different psychic girls?
Is that not this one? What's this one?
That's not this one.
Yeah, I guess this one is just the older sister and Tommy fighting against him.
Yeah, and then I think Tommy comes back. He doesn't come back in the next one. Not
He's
in
an
the next
adult.
one.
He's an adult in whichever one he comes back in.
Yeah. I think that's not the next one, but I think that's part 8. Because with Tommy, they started to do a thing where they were like he was gonna become Jason, and then they abandoned that storyline.
He's his nemesis, which
Yeah, pretty much.
I use that term loosely.
Yeah, this is the one this is the one that introduces him. And then they kill Jason at
she
the end.
She sees his deformed face. Tommy takes the machete and strikes it in the side of his skull, causing him to collapse to the floor and split his head open.
Yeah, and this is the point where you're like, oh, Jason's dead, which is why the next one. We'll talk about the next one. But is there anything? Yeah, this is the one that this one's notable. It introduces Tommy. He will be an important character going forward.
So yeah, the important thing to mention here is, as I've already stated, these movies really just blend into each other.
Now, hold on.
Especially because they're only like an hour and a half each.
Yeah, man. Hey, look, these are the correct length to the later ones. Hold on.
Endlessly. Mercilessly. Kills. But now, Jason's reign of terror is over. Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Jason's unlucky day.
Now I need to know. I'm confusing my... See, now I need to pull up my own notes, because this is what happens when you watch 4 or 13 movies that are more or less the same movie. The ones you remember watch more recently, are the ones you remember. The fourth one. So picture in your mind, Jordan. The third one comes out. It gets critically lambasted and it's a financial failure. What do you do?
Stop making them?
Jordan, you're Hollywood. Try again.
Keep pumping these babies out until people are sick of them?
Yeah, okay, we're doing that, but while we do that, what are we doing exactly?
Reinventing the character?
Think about it, Jordan, where there's a character, he's the part of the franchise that people know, but he was killed at the end of the last one.
We're gonna bring him back.
We bring back Michael Myers. There you go. That took you way too long.
10 years ago, on the night of October 31st, a small Midwestern town fell victim to an escaped killer. Under the cover of darkness, he carried out the most horrifying mass murder on record. 16 people in cold blood. Ever since that night, no one has forgotten his name. And Halloween has never been the same.
Unceremoniously and
so now, Jordan,
any explanation.
Oh yeah, so now, Jordan, it turns out that somehow Michael Myers, and you thought that Loomis also died in the explosion from the previous movie. So now, somehow, with seemingly no explanation, Michael Myers survived that explosion. He's been comatose in the hospital for 10 years, having survived the explosion. And Loomis, he's all scratched up and shit. I'm just trying to... Right, okay. So, this is the one where Jamie Lee Curtis didn't want to come back. So, Laurie, Jamie Lee Curtis's character, the original final girl from the first movie, dies off screen. She dies off screen. She dies off screen in a car crash. Gone. So now the movie has her daughter, Jamie Lloyd, who gets bullied at school for being the daughter of Michael Myers, the niece of Michael Myers, the niece of the boogeyman. Blah 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 blah. Sorry, just quickly reminding myself what happens in this movie. Right. So Jamie is like a young girl. She has a babysitter. And so the whole thing is you find out that Michael Myers feels the need to kill his family for some reason. He just has this need. He needs to kill his family for whatever reason. And so at the end of the movie, and the whole concern is like, is the girl gonna wind up like Michael Myers? So at the end of the movie, it ends with Jamie Lynn standing over top of the babysitter, or over the mom, having attacked her with a knife, having attempted to stab her, and it cuts to her perspective, like just like it was in the first one. And the implication is that she stabbed the mom to death. There's nothing really all that notable about the fourth one for me otherwise. Oh, yeah, that was the other one. There's a point where she hits him with the car, and it's like, just roll over his head. Just, like, squish his head with the car. Do it. Do it.
Like a balloon.
So, yeah, so this is the point where, oh, yeah, you're supposed to spot, have you spot the retcon?
No.
Oh, what's her face is, you know what? We'll save it for major retcons. That's it. That's Halloween Part 4.
To kill that little girl and anybody who gets in his way.
Oh, God.
Who's gonna be next?
Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers.
Okay. So we're on to Friday the 13th, Part 5.
Adrian's
A
Revenge.
New Beginning.
If the memory of Jason still haunts you, you're not alone. Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning.
A new beginning.
This one's interesting.
So this one continues Tommy's story. Tommy's at a halfway house, and look at me. Jason shows up and starts murdering people. So now, while I was willing to take the first one because that was before we got the status quo of Jason, while I was willing to put that one in its special little bubble, and it's protected in that special little bubble, this one gets the full ravages of, is it a good Friday the 13th movie? No, because it doesn't have Jason Voorhees.
I mean, it does technically have the mask and the machete.
No, that doesn't matter. It doesn't have Jason Voorhees.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that.
It wants you to think that it has Jason Voorhees, but it's actually a guy named Roy who's pretending to be him, and it's a copycat killer. And no, sorry, no. These movies are supposed to have Jason Voorhees. It doesn't have Jason Voorhees.
I mean, that again, we're in what, number 5? So this is the point where they're like, yeah, we need to rejuvenate the franchise. We need to find a new bad guy. It can't always be Jason Voorhees. And the idea was going to be that they would swap out. There would be a new guy behind the mask, and there would be a mystery of who it was for every movie. And once again, say it with me now, Jordan. People hated it. You didn't say it with me.
That.
They hated it.
And so, yeah, that's the big twist with this one. The rest of it is superfluous. And then I believe, if I remember correctly, at the end, nope. We don't. There's no. Jason is not in this at all.
No. A lot of people don't know that. That's what's interesting.
I thought maybe I was like, maybe he showed up at the end and there was a stinger that was like at the end of the credits or something. But nope. There's no. This is Marvel post credits. And there's just nothing, and it's really just. I don't want to say bad, but like. It's not Jason.
No, yeah. It's a fine movie. It's just not Jason. I get what you're saying. So, is that it? You got any more?
No, that's it.
Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning.
So, my thing with Michael at this point is
we got to keep this shit rolling.
Well, the thing with Jason is he doesn't really have a character, but that's not really the point. He doesn't need one. Whereas with Michael, they tend to attribute character to him a lot. So especially in these first ones, Professor or Dr. Loomis constantly is like, "I know what you want, Michael. I know what you want. I'm going to give you what you want, Michael." And
you want her? Here she is.
He does all these monologues where Michael is just staring at him like silently, and there's a lot of like, this character has no character. There's nothing to him, and I'm not saying he needs it, but they keep trying to ascribe it to him.
Sheriff,
They want you down at the cemetery.
Today in the cemetery, somebody dug up a coffin. It was a coffin of a 9-year-old girl. You've come back to us, Michael.
So in this one, after having survived getting shot again and falling down a mine shaft, he floats down a river and somehow survives and gets nursed back to health. And a year later, he resumes the hunt for Jamie Lloyd, who has been admitted to the hospital and has been rented. That's it. In this one, she can't talk. This is the one where just out of nowhere, she can't talk. She's mute. She's gone completely mute for some reason. And also, for some unexplained reason, she's psychic.
Ooh.
So she can see whatever Michael Myers... She can basically see whatever Michael Myers does. She has premonitions of whatever Michael does. And as the movie goes on, she eventually regains her ability to speak, but still has these visions. It's very weird. And it's very strange. And so yeah, Loomis eventually uses the girl as bait to get Michael to come get her. She convinces him to remove his mask. That's the other thing. There's so many times where he removes his mask and you see he's just a guy. Where you're like, yeah, he's just a guy. Another thing of note is in the first one, he's 21 years old. So he at this point is a man in his 30s. Yeah. And so then the movie ends basically with Jamie returning to the clinic, and there's been a mysterious black man who has been like watching her all day, and the movie doesn't really say who he is. He will be an important figure later. And it ends with all of her family has been killed by Michael, and she cries and is sad. That's part 5. There's a subplot that was cut out of this that we're going to talk about in the next one.
So we're on Friday the 13th, part 6.
Me and Jason. Jason belongs in hell, and I'm gonna see he gets there.
Jason's back,
Jason
baby.
Lives. Really, what this should have been called is Friday the 13th, part 6. Fuck around and find out. Because Tommy's back, and he gets released from another crazy house.
Yeah.
And instead of deciding to leave well enough alone, is like, fuck, man, I gotta go dig up Jason's grave just to really make sure that he's actually dead. And then this is where we get the version of Jason that everybody knows, the immortal, unstoppable Jason, who was brought back to life by electricity. He's basically Frankenstein. I sort of kind of realized this. This is the point where he becomes Frankenstein.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. Yeah, I think this is this the one where he's just pretty much a shambling corpse?
Basically.
Yeah. From this point on, he just sort of becomes a shambling corpse.
Like I said,
my favorite era
Frankenstein.
of Jason. And also, this is the point where they stop. They just straight up show him. Like they're no longer trying to hide him. So like there's I said, there's so many great. I can't remember which one.
Well, he's got the mask now, so you can actually show him. You know, it's just
there's a lot of my favorite scenes where it's like him just like opening and closing doors and like doing really mundane shit because they're not afraid to show him at this point because it's the 6th one and we know what Jason looks like.
Yeah. So the two important things that happen in this one that you really need to be aware of is one, Jason's corpse gets electrocuted by parts of the fence by like acting like a lightning rod, and he becomes an immortal, unstoppable zombie god. And two, Tommy chains Jason to a boulder at the end of the movie, and he's stuck at the bottom of the lake, but he's still very much alive.
He's trapped at the bottom of the lake. He kicks him in the butt leg.
Also, by this point, we're on the 6th one of these, and we're really questioning why these people keep trying to open a summer camp on this lake.
Right? Maybe consider not.
It just really seems like you should have learned the lesson by now,
Sounds like
old
it's
man.
not supposed to happen. That was 5.
That's part 6.
Part. Six, right. So Halloween 6, this is where Halloween... So now Halloween feels the need to explain why Michael Myers kills.
Every legend is based on fact. Every myth is grounded in truth. For 17 years, the town of Haddonfield, Illinois, has been haunted by a night when evil roamed the streets and a madman ruled the night.
And because the Friday the 13th movies are a thing, it needs to be ghost and spooky related. So I'm going to do my best to explain this. First of all, first acting appearance of Paul Rudd. So in the first movie, there's a little kid character who Laurie is babysitting when they get attacked.
Wait, the Paul Rudd?
The Paul Rudd, Ant-Man himself, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so he plays an adult version of the kid he plays an adult Tommy Doyle, who is the kid that Laurie was babysitting when Michael Myers tried to kill them in the first movie. He is now an adult, and he's been severely mentally damaged by, nearly being killed. Also, people in this town, considering, a lot of people get murdered on Halloween every couple of years, are really weirdly blasé about it. And in the it's a slasher movie, I get it. People don't really have any grief when it comes to death in this universe. It's really odd. So this one begins with Jamie.
I feel that, man.
Jamie is now, she looked like an adult, but according to Wikipedia is 15. And is pregnant and has given birth to a baby and is trying to escape from this druid-like cult after having been abducted by the man in black that I mentioned at the end of the previous movie. So this is all a subplot that they apparently cut out of the last movie. You're about to hear why.
And then put back into this one.
And then it came back in this one. So it turns out, Jordan, that there is a cult who worship tell me I realized this when I was describing the third one too. Stop me when this sounds familiar. There's a cult that they worship the god Thorn, and they want to sacrifice people on Thorn in a ritual.
Thorn had the most negative influence. Among the ancient druids, Thorn represented a demon that spread sickness, destroyed crops, brought death to hundreds of thousands of people. According to Celtic legend, one child from each tribe was chosen to be inflicted with the curse of Thorn, to offer the blood sacrifices of its next of kin on the night of Samhain.
Halloween.
The sacrifice of one family meant sparing the lives of an entire tribe.
So, why are you so concerned about us if Michael's only out to kill his family?
In his mind, anyone living in his house is his family. For years, I've been convinced there must be some reason. Some method behind Michael's madness. And the common link I found is Thorn. The Druids were also great mathematicians and astronomers, but the Thorn symbol is actually a constellation of stars that appears from time to time on Halloween night. Whenever it appears, he appears. I've traced it back to 1963 when Michael murdered his sister Judith. The next time was in 1978. Michael escapes from Smith's Grove. It happened a decade later, and the year after that, he kills again. Now Jamie says Michael is back, And for the first time in 6 years, Thorne reappears. Coincidence?
And they have placed.
Didn't they do this in the third one?
They did this in the third one. Yeah, I literally I didn't even realize that when I was watching it. I was like, I've just realized that now. That sounds an awful lot like the first one. So basically, it turns out that the reason why Michael Myers kills is because, and it's funny because like, you notice he has a pattern. He shows up, but it's not every Halloween because there's a time gap. So he's like, and then it's every 2 years, and then it's every 3 years, and it's like, dude, it's random. There's no pattern. What are you talking about? Yeah, Paul Rudd's in this. He's doing a weird accent for some reason. But anyway, sorry. It turns out that this cult has been using this curse, this mark, and they put it on Michael Myers, and it's implied that he's had it on him ever since he was a kid, and that's why he kills. And he's compelled to kill anyone he deems his family. And he, in his twisted mind, he deems anyone that lives in his house as his family. So he starts going after, or what was his old house? Because the big thing in this one is the family is living in the Michael Myers house. And so yeah, then at the end of it I think it's this one. No, that might be the next one. No, it's not the next one because this is the last one until anyway. So then it turns out that there's this the basically the mental hospital that Michael Myers was living in, that they have this. Basically, it's implied that the baby that his niece gave birth to is an in vitro clone of Michael Myers.
Okay, that's a choice,
right? Yeah, then it ends. Tommy frees. They all get away, and it ends with like you not knowing what happened to Michael Myers or Dr. Loomis. And I believe this is the last one because up until this point, the actor who played Dr. Loomis, bless his heart, has been in every one of these other than the third one. Every one that involves Michael Myers, he's right there being like, he's evil. And so yeah, so this point, and it's also implied that this curse gives him superpowers. So it's the reason why he's invulnerable. It's the reason why he's super strong. It's the reason why he can do anything, basically.
Oh, so it's his lightning rod.
Pretty much, yeah. This is the one where they're like, well, Jason explained it, so we need to too. And you're like, okay, that's stupid. This is stupid. This is dumb. And not in like a fun way like the Jason, but just in it's dumb way. But at least it's explaining him, I guess, to a degree. It does kind of take a bit, because the implication with Michael Myers seems to be that he's supposed to be like you know those old urban legends of like the Hook Man, or like, and then there was someone in the house, you know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah.
He's playing on a very real fear from 1978 of the random stranger attacking you in your home. That was a very real called the Boogeyman. Yeah, that's why they call him the Boogeyman in the movie. He's constantly called the Boogeyman. Yeah.
I didn't even know he was called the Boogeyman.
Yeah, because he's playing on a very real fear. So in the original, he's more scary in that one because he's just some random psycho who decided to. It's the same thing with the minute you give him a reason, he becomes less scary. But yeah, that's the sixth one. And also, like, it's weird and dumb and confusing.
Now, everyone will know the truth.
I knew what he was, but I never knew why.
Halloween 6, the origin of Michael Myers.
But yeah, Paul Rudd's in it. He's doing a weird accent for some reason that he can, like, disappears scene to scene and comes back scene to scene. It's very odd. But it's weird because he's not funny. He's like weird and serious and creepy. It's very anti-Paul Rudd. If it's nothing you would know him as, I should say.
Interesting.
But not fun. Not fun. They're not these. I'm not enjoying these movies so far.
I mean, so here's what I'll say about mine is they're fun in the moment, but they're like popcorn where it's like there's no substance to them.
No,
and
but that's not the point of them. The point of them is to have fun in the moment.
That's why I'm saying mine are enjoyable.
Mine get
for
progressively more gruesome and violent as they go on, and they become more unpleasant. And unlike Art the Clown, he's not fun.
So before I talk about part 7,
this is the one you've been waiting for.
What's happening to me?
Your psychokineses and these delusions.
No, you're not listening to me!
The one you've been asking for.
Hey, Tina, isn't this the way they wear their jackets back in the mental hospital?
Concentrate.
Concentrate, Tina!
The one you've been dying for.
You people give me the creeps.
And this is gonna feel like a tangent, but just stick with me on this. You know how in Ocarina of Time, on the timeline, it introduces 3 separate timelines?
Yeah.
Like there's the he lives and goes back in time.
Yeah.
He yada 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 yada. This movie, at the end of this movie, my headcanon is that's what happens with the Jason movies. Each of the progressive sequels is on its own timeline.
Yeah, I can
because
see
it's
that.
it's the only way it makes sense. Otherwise, it's just a confusing mess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, especially going from the net, because which one? This is the one where he fights Psychic, right?
Yeah.
This one I remember being funny because he is otherwise completely irrelevant to this movie. You could kind of more or less cut him out of it, and it wouldn't. But like he does not that he takes away from it. It's like he shows up, he gets free, and he gets dragged right back to the place he was at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, the bottom of the lake.
Yeah, in the exact same spot. But this one's super fun. This one's super fun.
Yeah, it's him versus Psychic Girl. There's really not a lot to say.
I keep saying it's Jason versus Carrie, but that's basically what it was marketed as. It was marketed as Jason versus Carrie, and that's basically what it is.
And so yeah, the reason why I say that it to me, each of the following movies follows down on a further timeline is because technically at the end of each of the movies, he dies. He can't and
well, I mean, he's technically always dead, to be fair.
No, but I mean, like, he dies in a way where it makes no sense for him to suddenly be back where he would be.
I would say that this one to the next one so much as because doesn't he get freed from the bottom of the lake at the beginning of Jason on a boat?
Yeah, no, but that's what I'm saying is all of the following next 3 movies.
Oh, I
continue from the end of this movie.
From the end of this one. Yeah. Okay. So I thought you were including this one in that. Okay. No. No.
The end of this one is the start of the 3-pronged timeline. Yeah. Is essentially what I'm saying.
I don't disagree with that because we'll get to when we talk about the next few, but I agree with that. This one's fun though. This one has like the final actions like in terms of a final girl having her like hit him with like the wires and stuff, and just their fight at the end is really fun.
And he loses his mask and stuff, and he just looks disgusting, man. Awful. Like he's burnt and his face is gross, and it's very much the reason why keep the mask on, sir, please.
Right,
keep it on.
Like it has my favorite Jason death. Well, it's hard because there's one in Jason X that I love, but the one where he kills the guy with the weed whacker. Because my thing with Jason, it's not enough that he kills you. He needs to torture you a little bit first. So like 90% of being I think I did I do this as a TikTok or as a Facebook stat where I said 90% of being Jason Voorhees is taking the time to set up your previous victims in upsetting positions. So when people open doors, it hits them in the face. Yeah, so they can find them and find creative places.
One of my favorite kills for Jason is in a further one, and I'll bring it up when we get to it. But he's one of those ones where it's like, yeah, I don't want to say he's silly, but like he's very 80s,
right? Well, the thing about his victims is they almost always, to a degree, deserve it, especially in the later ones. Like they're always like cartoonishly awful, so like you don't feel bad when they get it.
Yeah, they're either cartoonishly awful. Or there's one in the remake where I was very satisfied when he died. But they're either cartoonishly awful or they're cartoonishly stupid.
Right.
Which is where movies like Cabin in the Woods are then able to take like it's very much a parody of this.
And I think this one knows it's silly.
13th, Part 7, The New Blood.
I don't know. Jason X very much feels like a parody of Jason movies, but like my favorite, again, it's the one where he lets the guy get away, the evil psychologist. He like lets him get away, and the evil psychologist is running away, and he thinks he's safe. He's standing there, and then just Jason appears out of nowhere with a weed whacker, which like, you're not killing anyone with a weed whacker. Like, how much damage? I mean, at least I don't think you are. Maybe you are.
I honestly don't know. I
based upon what I know, I guess they do have blades technically, don't they? I suppose.
I think it depends on what kind of blade. Like maybe back in the 80s,
they were way more like
they had more gnarly ones, because the ones that I know of, like nowadays, they have like it's a plastic.
Yeah, it's like a little plastic bit, right? I'm like, if that hit you, it would hurt like hell if it hit you in the leg. But
like
I can't imagine
a heavy
killing
duty,
you.
like a heavy duty, like one that they use for like actual work and not for just home care.
Here's where
I could see being like metal, because you don't want to have to replace that plastic part every day.
Right? It's like here someone coming in the comments being like, you guys know nothing about weed whackers. Like, once it's just get 1,000 comments that are like, you don't understand the intricacies of weed whackers.
I don't have a lawn, so I have no reason to own a weed whacker.
Right.
I wish I was rich enough to have a home. But anyways,
this is my favorite Jason movie though. Like, this is it's a hard tie. It's a hard for me between this and the remake. I really like the remake, but this is, I think was my favorite when I was watching it. This was my favorite.
I'm not gonna say that I don't understand and that that's not fair, but for me, I'm always gonna have a soft spot for the pure ridiculousness of Jason X.
I mean, I just didn't love Jason on a boat. We're gonna get to Jason on a boat. No.
Oh my goodness, this video wound up being way longer than I intended it to. And to save you all from watching a 2-hour-long video, I hate to tell you, but there's going to be a part 2. If you want to see us talk about both Halloween and the Friday the 13th remakes, what we thought of those, as well as the rest of the Friday the 13th movies and the new trilogy, go ahead and click the link on the left. That's going to be part 2 of this massive retrospective we did on both of these franchises. Or if you want to see the full podcast that these clips are from, unedited, you can click the link on the right. But in the meantime, you can click the subscribe button if you haven't already. Let me know, of the ones we've talked about thus far, what is your favorite one? And are we massively wrong about weed whackers? I feel like we probably are. Somebody's going to yell at me about the weed whacker thing. But anyway, have a good day.